Hey everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Stalwart Ursa and you are a delightful person. Thanks so much for clicking on this. I am going to be talking about some very cool stuff that I got to do early this month, actually. So, a little backstory. When Wizards of the Coast started doing the New Perspectives grant for the Magic Cons, I had kind of already been making some content here and there, and I decided, you know what? I was a marketing manager for an LGS at one point, and I'd been playing the game for a bit, and I was like, let's do it. Let's apply. So, I did win the grant for Magic Con Philadelphia. So, I went from being a grant winner at the Black Lotus to then I had such a great time. I met so many cool people. I really liked the vibe of the event, and I really like another part of my background is that I've also done convention planning and running and security for conventions for about 12 years. And I really like the vibe of being on the ground floor, of seeing kind of the freshman year of what a magic convention looked like. And I decided, I had a great time. I met a lot of really cool people here. Let's try again. Let's do it again. Let's see what happens. You never know. You never know unless you try. So I tried for the creator badge for Magic Con Minneapolis. And it was stressful, I guess, but like not in a terrible way, cuz I avoid the pitfall of thinking too harshly about myself and what I make, because I don't think about everyone else who makes content as like, I don't know, rivals or people that I should like be racing against. I just think of them as they're also running their own race. The only person that I have to outpace is myself in the past. So I applied, and I guess that this year's Creator Pass, or this show for Magic Con Minneapolis, the Creator Pass was significantly harder to get. They had gone from a large amount of numbers that they had for Vegas and then also for Philadelphia, and they had significantly shrunken that number. And not that. So then I went to Minneapolis as a creator, and that was a completely different experience than going as a Black Lotus grantee. And so for this review, I won't be reviewing it necessarily as a creator badge holder, because there is stuff that I was doing and interacting with that, like, I have given that feedback, and I will continue to give that feedback to the people who deserve to hear that feedback to make things better for other people in the future. But I will, for this video, specifically be going into really what the show was like. So, like, with the creator badge, with the exception of, like, stuff that I did, i.e. getting stuff and giving stuff away to people and making content at the show, it was kind of like a weekend VIP badge. So it wasn't like Black Lotus, but it was the step up from just the base weekend, because we got a pretty great little bundle. We got like a drawstring bag, and we got the secret lair. We got a really freaking cool like badge. The fact that the badge is one of the angels is just truly amazing. I do love myself a good angel. And I went ham on collecting the pins, as you saw. If you haven't seen that video, check out the video on here on this channel. It's great. The pins that they are doing for the Magic Cons are so freaking cool. They are truly a pin lover's dream. But yeah, in terms of like reviewing my experience as an actual attendee and how the show was, the creator badge for this show, because it seems every show they're kind of building upon things, which is very great, and I will get into that. So the creator badge for this show was very much like a weekend VIP. It didn't get you too much stuff, but like, it was good. It got you into everything that you really needed to get into. So, with all of that kind of out of the way, I am excited to talk about this show. So yeah, like I said, I went to Philadelphia, and Philadelphia, I gave a solid 85% to, because while there was a lot of really fun stuff in Philly, there were a lot of other things that were just necessary tweaks that needed to be made for like ease of use, both for like attendees and for guests and for staffers, that I think really needed to be done. And then, there were people who were upset about a lot of other stuff, and that's fine. Everyone's experience is their own, and they're valid in that way because they experienced it themselves. But my experience of having run conventions was that every show is going to be a little different until a showrunner finds their perfect pitch. They need to figure out how to get a lot of P's and Q's in order. And it really seemed that Magic Con Vegas and Philadelphia, they kind of just went with like base level suggestion of what Reed Pop suggested. And I don't like Reed Pop. Reed Pop is fine, but you do need to have a lot more of a presence of mind of what you're event planning with Reed Pop, because Reed Pop will just go with the base level, and that's not what every show needs. You need to really think about the P's and Q's and how everything would function for the people who love your show and what you want to do. And honestly, they kind of really nailed that here with Magic Con Minneapolis. Right out the gate, the convention center for Magic Con Minneapolis was so much better laid out wise than it was in Philadelphia. With Philly, you had everything was kind of in like 3 different areas. You had on the first floor the like tournament play area. So anyone who was doing any type of tournament grinding and wanted to get stuff from like the ticketed prize wall were just down there all weekend. You never really saw the vendors hall or the artists area, or the free play area / command zone, because the artist area, free play area, and command zone were on the second floor. And then registration was away from the vendors hall area, like pretty decent little hallway away. And then you really had to like either look around for it or ask someone where the Pro Tour was, because that was like up in the rafters with Quasimodo. So like it was certainly a thing. I enjoyed Philly for what it was, but like everything was so spaced out that it was difficult to see everything, or to at least have the option to see everything. You really had to like consciously think about it. And I like being able to just wander and find stuff, and that is usually easier to do when everything is on one level, which for Minneapolis it was. The amount of space that MagicCon had was so nice. It was most of that convention hall. You had the free play area and the Pro Tour area in one place. So I was joking around that was like the 2 genders, free play and Pro Tour. And then in the free play Pro Tour area, there was also the creator corner. So that's where people with creator badges like myself would meet up with our liaisons. And then there was also like 3 tables in like a very mini booth where people signed up, of the creators signed up to have like autograph sessions or like meet and greet sessions, so people could go and meet their favorite creators there, which was pretty cool. And then they also had the Magic Arena little like installation there, so people could go and play on tablets and get a feel for the game if they don't really play it themselves. And then creators and like other guests would also go there and play games, and people can go and watch them. So that was pretty fun. And then the Pro Tour, of course, so you can actually go and wander from the free play area over to the Pro Tour area. They didn't have it like all open. It was like you could see people playing, but the actual play area was roped off. So like you can see the stage for the announcers, and then you could see people playing, but obviously you couldn't walk up and just stand right next to the table like you could for like command zone or free play, which is fair because those folks really got to do a lot of percolating because they are trying to win some really big titles. So that makes a lot of sense. But that was very cool. My only issue with that free play area was that because they had the Pro Tour in there, they had like little smoke machines, like little fog machines that they have because they make the stage for the announcers look really cool. And then they were also live streaming this on Twitch and, various outlets for people who were not there, who wanted to watch the Pro Tour, to be able to watch the Pro Tour. And that got pretty bad as somebody who would walk around in there, because the first day on Friday. I got there at open on Friday, or a little bit before open on Friday. And they lined up everyone who wasn't a Black Lotus, because Black Lotus got to hang out in front of the next hall, which was the vendors hall and main stage area and art area. They got to hang out in front of it. There was chairs in front. So the Black Lotus people got to hang out in front of it and then also go in 30 minutes early, which is a very cool perk. I love that they're doing more stuff for the Black Lotus. I'll talk about that later. But they then were trying to like harangue and amass everyone who wasn't Black Lotus to not hang out in front of the area. And then if they wanted to get in first, they had to line up in the free play area. And then they would like, basically, it's like Disneyland, the line is the ride. They would then kind of like snake everyone in the line into the vendors hall at 10 o'clock. And waiting in that line in the free play area, it wasn't bad. Everyone was really cool. But like, I did actively have to turn to the person behind me and ask him if it was foggy and smoky in that room or if I was having a stroke, because they were a little too enthusiastic with the smoke machine in such an enclosed space that I just didn't think that was a good idea. I know why they had, so it's a convention center, right? The halls are effectively walls in between various halls, but the walls can actually be taken down. That's how most convention centers work. So they had the Free Play Pro Tour hall was walled off from the vendor artist area, command zone, and tournament play areas. So with that being such a smaller confined space, having the smoke machines on was a little disorienting because it didn't have a bigger space for the smoke to disperse. It wasn't bad smoke, obviously it was internal stage smoke, but still, it got really foggy in there a couple of times, and I was like, this is disorienting for me, and I don't even have vision issues or anything else like that. So like for me as somebody who's pretty able-bodied, that was a little disorienting. So maybe in the future, if you're gonna do that, have the pro play area be in one of the more open spaces, because that was a lot, or like have something to diffuse it a lot faster. And then also in the thought process of that line for Friday, I only did it once because, again, I'm a huge pin person and I really wanted to get those pins, and I knew that a lot of them were going to sell out on Friday. So I had to get there early on Friday. That said, that line, while everyone in that line was very cool around me and who I spoke to, the staffers were not prepared to handle having a large amount of people in lines move at once from one hall to another, where you have to move them through doors down another hallway into another doorway. They were not prepared for that. And I'm a little harsher on that because I did convention security. So I also did line management for thousands of people, for thousands of more rowdy people. Anime conventions are, while fun, are a completely different energy level. And I did that with significantly more rowdy people. And it's not that it was done terribly. Like, there weren't people hurt, there weren't like stampeding situations, but it just wasn't handled well. I think it was something that maybe they thought of the lines and how to move the lines. They thought of maybe that morning and hadn't really considered how to instruct people to go through them. And there was really, from what I could see, only one staff member who was kind of trying to lead it. And the moment that he started moving one portion of the line, the other 5 portions of the line moved at once, as opposed to like snaking like you're supposed to. And you do need a few people to have that and help manage that. So like I said, no one got hurt, but like, one moment, one person sees something move, another person moves, and then you don't have anyone like making sure things are moving properly. Everyone moves at once. So that was a thing. I don't know how it was on Saturday and Sunday. I can only assume that after Friday's issue with a significantly less amount of people, that the staffers then readjusted, because I did overhear, I stepped out and watched people go in and then kind of stepped in, and I did overhear one of the staffers then talk to another staffer. I know that was one of those, okay, that was a thing, how can we do that better conversations, because I've had them myself. Once that was done, getting into the convention hall was great. Significant improvements that they did from Philadelphia to Minneapolis are countless, but one of them was that they had signs everywhere for what hall this was, what was in the hall, maps. Like, they had just big signs that were very cool. The only issue with the signs, specifically with the map sign, is that while the map was blown up and you could see the multiple halls and where everything was in the halls, the text on the actual spaces were so tiny that you really had to like get up on it. And again, I'm someone that doesn't have vision issues, and I had to really move from standing a couple of feet away from it to effectively almost making out with the sign to be able to kind of tell what the sign said. And even then, it was kind of blurry. So, you know, future thing, when you're making those big giant signs for the maps, fantastic. Just make sure that the actual lettering for the booths adjusts with the sign, because that doesn't always happen when you're doing graphics things. But that, very good effort, just fell a little bit short, but still really liked that. So I do hope that they just fine tune that a bit for next Vegas show. But the layouts themselves were great. So like I said, we've already talked about Pro Tour, free play area, all in one area. Very cool. Very smoky, but very cool. And then you had the next hall over was the entrance to the vendor hall, the main stage area, and the Art of Magic, which they're trying to... It's basically the professional artists that have worked for Wizards of the Coast with Magic. I'm assuming they want to keep away from saying Artist Alley, because Artist Alley typically tends to be community artists. So it's Art of Magic. But that second hall was those three things. And then in the center divide of that, it was then also the store for the convention, which was very cool. And then next to that, to the left of that, they had the command zone area. It was command zone and tournament play, basically. So the command zone was very much improved. They made the command zone free for anyone with a badge, which was very fun. I do hope that in the future, so while the command zone in Philadelphia wasn't free for everyone, you had to have a certain level of badge, or you had to buy the additional little package to have the command zone. It was a cool area, but they actually had like a little raised booth and like table, just like they do in the tournament play area, for like judges and like staffers to kind of hang out. So while at Mini they had staffers like in Philly wandering around helping people find games, whether they wanted casual or CEDH or legacy or whatever, they were helping people find games because that place was always poppin'. But they didn't have that raised area for like staffers to kind of hang out and judges to congregate. So it was kind of hard to find a staffer that wasn't already helping other people. And that's kind of something that was, I feel, necessary. It wasn't a big deal. I didn't have any issues there, but I just think for future situations that might be a little easier, especially because the command zone was so poppin' the entire weekend. But then also behind the command zone, there was, instead of doing the secret layers, which is where the official meet and greet cosplayers are, because of course, you know, you have Elish Norn, amazing, Dark Pact cosplay, superb. You have Tappy Toe Claws as Chandra. You have, I always forget his name, a lovely gentleman who's Garuk. You have Olivia as Liliana, or Professor Onyx, and then Talia Vess as Elspeth, or Archangel Elspeth as she was for this show, and then you have Teferi Time Mage as Teferi. All amazing people. They were fantastic. Love talking to all of them. It was always a blast. But this time, they did not have their secret lairs. What they had was something completely new. And with this mentioning, I'll go into the other new thing that they had. So with this, they didn't have the secret layers. They took the budget from the secret layers, or they built those. I'm sure they're keeping them. They chose to not have the secret layers, but they had the Battle for Dominaria. So they had a giant Shivan dragon statue that was very cool. So it was actually hanging like the Shivan dragon was like flying into the battle. Very fun. Then they had like a FX screen behind it that was like clouds, and then in the clouds was the magic / planeswalker symbol. Very fun. Loved that a lot. And then instead of having the full secret layers where the cosplayers would hang out and meet and greet people, they had like little tiny small alcoves with like little designs for each of the characters, with the exception of Elish Norn. Elish Norn was just on free roam mode, but everyone kind of more or less congregated there. Very cool. Loved it. The Shivan Dragon also like roared, so the lights would flicker in that area, and then there would be like audio effects that made it sound like Shivan Dragon was roaring. That was amazing. I loved that. Really wish that it wasn't on a 15-minute loop. I was not there all weekend, but I did the few games that I did play. I played on Sunday, and I played in that area because you had tables in there to play. And that was a thing. It wasn't terrible, but like every 15 minutes, it's kind of a lot. I would think that should that happen again, 30 minutes, 45-minute intervals, I think would be better. And also, the Shivan Dragon's mouth is already open, so I kind of feel like if you're going to have the smoke machine, have it be attached to the Shivan Dragon. Because, like, that would be cool. You know, smoke comes out, the roaring, it just be very fun. Actually, on that note, with the Shivan Dragon, they also had a new statue for Elspeth. They actually had Archangel Elspeth. She was actually behind the Weatherlight, so right when you walk into the vendor area, the main stage was on the right, and then the Weatherlight was right in front. And then when you walked around the Weatherlight, behind the Weatherlight was a big backdrop of like ethereal clouds, and then Elspeth was just like full wing out, like stored up. So freaking cool looking. So that was amazing to be able to take a picture with like the Elspeth statue and to film in front of the Elspeth statue. Truly ethereal, honestly. Also, all of the statues, old and new, and areas like with the Battle for Dominaria, all had little displays that actually read, or you could read about what was happening here or who the character was, which was very cool. Like, there were a lot of people who've been playing for a long time, but this show in particular had so many people who were like, oh, I just started playing, or oh, I've only been playing for 2 to 4 years. So it was very cool to have stuff like that for the Planeswalkers, to be able to like read and see who these characters were. I like that a lot. Accessibility, you love to see it. Let's let people be new to things and be excited and learn about these new characters. It was really such a good vibe. I liked it a lot. The tournament area was poppin'. As it is, it's a tournament. You get to grind, get a bunch of cool stuff. It was a huge space. I never saw the entirety of the tournament space being used all of the time. I was walking around a significant portion of the time. I was having people trying to find me so I can give away stuff. So I would always make sure to head over to the tournament area, because sometimes there would be people waiting for people who were doing tournaments. So there would be little areas where they could sit and wait for their friends to finish. And I would wander over there significantly. And while it was hopping, because they were firing multiple tournaments at a time, I personally never saw that it was completely full. So I do wonder if maybe going forward, because now the command zone is free, maybe you give the command zone a slightly more space and then have the tournament just switch it. Have the tournament lose maybe 10% of space and give the command zone that 10% more space. Because they were great that they were together, but like the tournament space was never fully packed all the time. So that's just my feedback on that. And the vendors all pretty well laid out. There was very good, I'm just talking accessibility because I love accessibility here. The vendor alleyways to be able to walk between the different vendors were so wide. There were certain points in Philadelphia that it was very difficult to get around certain halls as someone who was just wearing a backpack. I couldn't imagine as someone who needed a walking aid or a wheelchair, or if you brought your kids and had a stroller. They were probably nearly impossible to get through. So that was very freaking cool that they had the areas were just wider to walk through. Loved that. Even when it was packed on Saturday, you didn't feel like a sardine. There were significantly more people than there were on Friday, but like it never felt oppressive, in my opinion. And I've been to conventions that feel oppressive and feel sold out. And we are very aware, I believe it was announced that most of the tickets had sold out, with the exception of, I think, like the base level weekend pass. But yeah, Saturday was busy, but it wasn't oppressive as someone just walking around, especially someone walking around just giving away packs. So that was very cool. The main stage was very well laid out. I liked that a lot. They had they had slightly less chairs than they had at Philly, but most of the panels and little things that were happening at the stage area seemed to fill up all the time, so that's good. I still hesitate as a planner because sometimes people congregate around things and it can make a hazard. I still hesitate to put the main event stage effectively right next to the main entrance. But in this instance, I will acquiesce that, like, because vendor, main hall area, command zone, and tournament play were all effectively in one giant room, it wasn't too bad because then you had a bunch more doors for those other entrances to be able to get out if something happened. So in this instance, I think it was fine, but like, I still like, my spidey sense is always like, oh, that's really close to the door. If something like the command zone live happens and something happens during the command zone live, but so far so good. Which actually the command zone live, I didn't sit and watch it, but like looked like it was popping. There were, I think, only like standing room only, because of course there was. Another thing that I actually really liked was that while the main stage wasn't being used, they also had like two big screens on the side of the stage for wherever you were sitting. You could see everything because it would be filmed to be able to put up on YouTube and Twitch later, and then you could actually use the screens. The screens were also showing all of the animated shorts and trailers for the different sets. So that was very fun. So if you wanted to just chill and vibe, you could just sit and like watch all of the shorts and be like, oh, hey, look, it's the Crimson Vow short again. Which is very fun. I love the Crimson Vow short. And then they would also rotate into like showing key art from like March and Aftermath. It would also show the schedule for the main events area. One thing that I wish it did, and then this will tie into another part of the convention, I wish that the main event stage, because a large amount of people were constantly in that main 3 rooms, and because everything was basically one giant room, you could see from one hall all the way to the other side of the hall. So if you were in the tournament area and someone like really fun stuff was happening at the main stage, you couldn't hear everything that was happening, but like if people were like oohing and ahhing, you could hear it from the tournament area and look over and be like, oh, I want to go wander over there. I want to see what's up. So I feel like a missed opportunity to getting more information for people to see other things at the convention was not having Hall 101F panel schedule also on the main like little TV, the main big TVs next to the event stage. Because the main stage was where all like the official panels were happening and Command Zone and Good Luck High Five, but they didn't really rotate the schedules for the fan panels. And the fan panels were really great. Like I didn't check out the fan panels. Like I popped my head in there for the Saturday events, because I wanted to see them, because I was really excited that people were doing fan panels. But the fan panels on Saturday were more like gameplay heavy and like, you know, making stuff better for your decks and all that stuff, which is fine. It's part of Magic. It's just not my cup of tea. With the exception of how to start a group at like a school or like a kids group. That was very cool. I did watch a bit of that. But they didn't really promote those very well. So like the Saturday ones got a little bit more engagement because Saturday's the busiest day. So even if people don't necessarily know what's happening there, if they see the sign, which again, by 101F, they did have the big sign that showed the schedule of what the panels were. If they saw the sign and were like, oh, I want to go sit somewhere that's away from a ton of people, let's go check out this panel, which is typically like one of the benefits of panels, people can still engage with the thing that they are interested in without having to do the hustle and bustle of walking around the show. But Saturday is the big busy day, so people are going to be looking for things to do. But the panels on Sunday are not on the big busy day. It's sleepier, it's slower. People are, you know, tired from the stuff that they did on Saturday and Saturday night. So to not promote the panels, specifically the panels on Sunday, either on the social medias or on the main stage screens so people who had weekend badges could see them, was kind of very much a disservice to the fan panels that were on Sunday in particular. Because the fan panels that were on Sunday were very cool. They were really stuff that we need to talk about as a community and that affects a lot of us as a community. So like the Goblin Lore podcast did the first panel of How I Sparked, a discussion of mental health in Magic the Gathering. Very freaking cool. The second one was like how to build a diversive and inclusive gathering in Magic the Gathering. So it had different creators who are pretty big proponents in their own right in building communities and how to do that and have it be as inclusive as possible. Loved that. That was very fun to listen to. And they also talked about the really difficult things that people of color and women and queer people have to deal with in being in Magic. And there were not nearly enough people in there that should have been in there. And then the last panel of the day, again, not nearly enough people were in there that should have been in there. The last panel of the day was also a diversity panel, but it was a diversity panel made up of individuals for marginalized identities who work for Wizards of the Coast with Magic. And that was so fascinating because you had like the world building lead, you had an art lead, you had someone who was like part of like HR and like also planning. You had so many people there who had such cool things to say and talk about, and how like the projects that they're doing as people with marginalized identities are slowly pushing the door further and further open to get even more cool stuff coming down the line. And they also showed art from the new Ixalan set that they were like, yeah, we're just gonna show you guys art. This is first look art. They dropped 2 pieces of first look art. I dropped them on my Twitter. They're so cool. Not enough people are talking about them because not enough people went to that panel. And another cool thing about that last panel with the Wizards employees, they had an ASL interpreter there, which was phenomenal. I was not expecting that. When I saw this woman walk up to the side of the like the little stage area, I was like, oh, maybe she's grabbing something for one of the people there. And then she just started signing once the panel started, and I got so excited. Again, I'm able-bodied as heck, but there are people who aren't and who need things to be able to like have the same access to stuff as I get. And that was very fun. And it wasn't filmed. And that's kind of the nature of doing fan panels. It's not going to be filmed. It's not going to be recorded. That's just how it is. I did notice a lot of people, when the announcements were made, were upset that fan panels weren't going to be recorded in some way, shape, or form. That's just the name of the game. Fan panels don't get that, even at like big anime conventions. That's just never something that happens. So I don't fault that for Wizards not doing that. I do, however, think that it is very bad that they didn't promote the fan panels as much as they should have. Because, in particular, Sunday did get a bad shake at that. And those were such good and cool conversations that I think a lot of people would have benefited from. And also being in there, because I was in there all Sunday, I saw all of those panels. In particular, the fan panels, because the main event stage is on a stage. It's raised, it's filmed, you can see it from different angles because of the filming. This main area for the fan panels really was just a 6-foot table with chairs and mics, and then they had like a screen in case people wanted to project stuff on the screen, which was very cool. Obviously they did that for the Wizards employees panel, but that would be more accessible to have that raised, because if you had someone very tall, which I did during the second panel, someone very tall sat in the front row, I significantly lost vision of 2 of the 4 panelists. So that was unfortunate, but you know, it is what happened, and that's fine. I was able to move because there weren't that many people in that panel. I was able to move and be able to adjust. But I think in the future, continuing to have fan panels, amazing. Let's get in there. Let's talk to the community. Let's see what they have to say and how they want to engage with Magic. But let's have those be on stages so that people can see them a little better. And let's also promote them on the socials and on the main stage queue so that people who are just sitting there and resting can see that there's an event and they can go to those, because people missed out on Sunday. Let's talk about another thing that I was like, I didn't hear anyone really talking about it in positive or negative, but I just think it's something to consider for the future. They had, right after security, which was significantly better than it was in Philly. The security was very cool. It was very good to get your bags checked. It was super easy. But once that was done, you then immediately went to your left into a room, and that's where you could pick up your badges if you didn't do it on Thursday. I always recommend doing it on Thursday. But if you didn't, it was super close by and you can get that done. But then rather than having because some badges had stuff that you would then get, like backpacks or little swag bags or what have you. Rather than having that pretty close by to the badge pickup area, you kind of had to walk the length of the convention center, past the main vendor hall entrance, past the tournament area, past another just closed door area, to then get to where ticketed merch pickup was. And I know that they did that because they wanted the next room over to be the Black Lotus Lounge. And I get that. It's one of those, like, it's a toss-up, right? Because, like, you want to do that because you want the Black Lotuses to be right there in the action to be able to get into the main hall as often and come out to their little area as often as they want. Cool. But I think, for me, as somebody who was Black Lotus in Philadelphia, I liked being able to go to the Black Lotus Lounge when it was away from stuff. So I think, personally, I think it would have been pretty cool to switch out those areas and have the next room over and across the hall be merch pickup, and then having the VIP Black Lotus Lounge actually kind of being in its own area that's pretty quiet, because then it can be a relaxing, chill, I'm here to like vibe and eat and get coffee kind of an area. Because that's really what it is. It is an area to go and hang out and sit and have food. So I would personally make that switch, but like, yeah, it was a bit of a walk to like get your ticket and then go pick up your stuff. So I would consider switching that up. I'm sure that's going to be different for every convention center, because every convention center has a different layout. Oh, another thing. I'll just put it in here. It's less of a feedback for wizards and more of a like general knowledge thing. So the one thing that I did hear a lot of people giving like meh feedback on was that the lines for the artist in the Art of Magic area got pretty full pretty quickly because you have people like Chris Ron and Justine Jones and Livia Prima. You have these really cool, amazing artists who have done a ton of art or a ton of very gorgeous art. So people are going to want their prints signed, or they're going to want to pick up prints or get tokens made or get stuff signed for various cards, which is great. That's good. That's why they're there. But a lot of people are going to want to do that because that's why those people are there. So those lines are going to fill up very quickly, and then they're going to cap them very quickly because people are going to want to spend some amount of time with these artists, and these artists are going to have to break. They're going to have to go to lunch. They're going to have to go to the bathroom. It's unfortunate, but that's the name of the game. You are going to have to wait a bit of time to meet somebody. Same thing happened with like the Command Zone cast area where they would have like signings and like picture takings. You're gonna wait a significant amount of time. Unfortunately, that's just how it is. I think that maybe the layout could be a little bit better to like give those areas a little more space so that they can have those lines be a little more upkept. But like that's kind of again a fine-tuning thing. It is more of a everyone, if you're going to a Magic Con, specifically a Magic Con, if you're going to a Magic Con, be prepared. A ton of people are there and they do want to play games and they do want to go see panels and stuff, but they're there because this is a more casual way to interact with Magic and you're able to actually engage with the artists. And a lot of people want their stuff signed. You're not the only one that is going to want your stuff signed. So you have to prepare for that. I know you want to go and I know you want to play Magic, but you have to be prepared for that. That's the name of the game. You're going to wait. The line is the ride. They can make things a little easier, but at the end of the day, the artists have to take a break. The artists are people. So please keep that in mind for future shows. Plan accordingly. Maybe do your autographing on Friday if you can do it, or do it on Sunday. Because a lot of people tend to try and do it on like the busy times, like Saturday, and they're always going to be swamped. There's always going to be people out there in their lines. That's how it's going to be. So maybe plan, figure stuff out. It'll be a little easier for you at the end of the day, and then you have all your stuff done. Every Black Lotus that I spoke to, and I made sure to speak to a few, were very happy. All of them were significantly happier than a percentage of were for Philadelphia, because they added a lot of stuff that Black Lotus people got for this show. Same price for the badge. It was $700, I believe, plus tax a little bit more, but you got your own entrance, so they didn't have to deal with large amounts of people. It was just the VIPs and industry that they had to go in through with for security stuff. They had their own lounge, which again has like tables and coffee and food that is like constantly rotated out for you, so you're fed. They had their own tournament play events. They had their own. So there's two parties that VIPs could go to. One was a Black Lotus exclusive event where they actually got to, I don't have to like really talk to a couple of people who I know who were Black Lotus, but they got to play with some of the Lord of the Rings cards, and they had giant, like the big oversized cards of the connector cards for the Shire there. And so some Black Lotus people got to go home with those, which was very fun. And then I believe that was held at the same bar that the VIP party on Saturday was held at. So the Black Lotus event was on Friday, and then the VIP after party was on Saturday at the same location. So I think there was just like, of course, with like VIP, Black Lotus also happened to get their own line to like buy stuff from the convention store, which is very cool. And there was just so many things that Black Lotus got for this show that I can't I I can't recall any Black Lotus person I spoke to having a bad time. So I think that was great. It was a good move. I think that, like I said, it was a positive move because while I was satisfied with what I got in Philadelphia as a Black Lotus, not a lot of people were. And I think it was because a lot of people didn't really sit and consider the value of a lot of stuff, like actually consider the monetary value of what they were getting. Um, but, everyone's experience is their own experience. So people are going to want different things. Because I'm assuming everyone from Philadelphia was also looking at the Black Lotus for Vegas, and the Black Lotus for Vegas also got the Magic 30th edition boxes. So it was one of those things that, like, Philadelphia, unfortunately, kind of was the middle child. It was the middle child in all aspects. That, like, it was growing pains. It was a lot of expectations were put on it when it's its own convention. But Minneapolis really came in swinging and, like, really took the feedback from what was at Philly and how to build upon it. And really, very much they did. Also, the VIP party, oh my God, was phenomenal. It was in a bar, like I said, that was 3 floors, and WotC rented out the entire bar. So first floor was just regular traditional bar with, like, snacks and stuff. Also, it was an open bar, so it was like snacks and stuff. The second floor was like more a traditional bar, but it also had like a karaoke thing, so that was pretty fun. And then the third floor was like, they also had like a mini bar, but it was a dance floor, so you could actually go up there and just dance the night away. And then there was like a balcony for when it got too hot, you could actually overlook downtown Minneapolis. And it was so cool up there. I, being the delightful Latina that I am, I was dancing all night. I wore my mask, looked super good, and was dancing all night on the 3rd floor. It was really fun. I was aware that there wasn't perhaps enough security up there. And then the first 2 floors were pretty packed. I personally would have liked a little more security on hand, and for security to actually, like, be rotating. Again, as somebody who has done convention security, because I just, that's just something, nothing happened to my purview, but, like, that's just the moment that you have an open bar and you have people on different layers doing different stuff, you're gonna get someone who goes a little overboard. So I just personally would have rather liked the security being a little upped and maybe actually rotating the floors a little bit more, because the security that we had on the 3rd floor, because I was there most of the night, was 2 people, and they were kind of just standing by the bathroom all night. Which is fine, you go where people are gonna sequester, I guess. But yeah, I just would have liked a little more engagement there from that security. But I'm always gonna watch security because I did security myself for a long time. But that was such a great event. The DJ was a little weird, but, like, and by weird, like, not that the DJ was doing anything, but, like, we switched out DJs. So it was a DJ halfway through the first half of the night who was really cool, and then they switched DJs, and the second DJ kept playing a lot of very cool stuff, but then would try to mix things. So it would start out with a very fun song and then mix into something that did not vibe well. So everyone would kind of start dancing and be like, all right, we're feeling it. And then they would mix into something else, and everyone would be like, why did you go from 70 miles per hour to 15? It was a thing. It was fine. Not every DJ is going to be bombastic. Mr. Exclusive. They're not always going to give it to you, but I still had a lot of fun there. So one thing that I missed for Minneapolis that was at Philadelphia was kind of having an outside art installation or an outside event that also tied into the convention. So, like, with Philadelphia, It was the art installation. There was an artist, a little art gallery literally right across the street from the convention center. It was very cool, and every day it would rotate art from different sets. There was no like set particular thing. There were themes, but like it was just a ton of cool art. So that was very fun. I loved going to that every day because it would get me away from the convention, away from a ton of people, and I would go and just vibe. And they also had like an autograph area over there, which was very fun. They did not do that for Minneapolis. There was nothing outside of the convention during convention hours that you could do when you leave the convention center. And then if you wanted to, you can go back into the convention center. They, like I said, had the VIP party, but that wasn't necessarily during convention hours. That was very much like after dinner, we're going to go and vibe with a bunch of people type of thing well into the night. And that was cool. But I do really like, especially for like these bigger destination conventions, I do like tapping into the community and going out and doing stuff. There was a local game store that was really close to like the convention center that had a charity like chaos draft that they were raising money for the trans lifeline, which was very fun. A lot of people went to that, I heard, so that was very cool. But they did that on their own. That LGS was like, there's gonna be a ton of people here for this convention. We're gonna use our noodles and we're gonna provide a place for them to come and play and do something very fun. Also help a ton of people. But they didn't. The convention itself didn't have anything external to do. And I think that was a big missed opportunity. Minneapolis and Minnesota in general, but Minneapolis in particular, is kind of a hub for a lot of like a ton of older players who had been playing for a long time. Not necessarily older, but just people who've been playing for a long time are in that area. But also, you do typically have people from that area who are like very impactful in the community who help bring in new formats. So like Oathbreaker kind of broke ground in Minneapolis. So like we didn't to not do anything in the outer community that ties into the convention was a big missed opportunity for me. I keep saying it. I said it for my review for Philly, but to not tie into like the historical or cultural impacts of an area that you happen to be in that ties into your event is a huge missed opportunity, because you want to continue engaging the community that is coming out for your event to be able to go and continue thriving and having more fun with other aspects of this community. I talked to somebody and they were saying that like for a lot of people, playing Magic is kind of a lifestyle. It's how they engage with a ton of different types of people. And while that's not how it is for me, that is correct. It is how it is for a lot of other people. And I think that not engaging those people and people like myself who are more casual in that way, big missed opportunity. Because like, you know, even in like Seattle for Emerald City Comic Con, so many other aspects all throughout Seattle cooperatively do stuff with the convention. So either as long as you have your badge, you get in for free to do something, or you get a significant steep discount because a lot of people are coming from out of town to come to the convention and they want to go see other stuff. And I think that that's something that could be done here. Or, you know, like, again, with Emerald City Comic Con, they work with like theater troupes. So like there are for Emerald City Comic Con, every Emerald City Comic Con, there's also like a burlesque show that has like theming to whatever the big guests are for that show. And I know that like maybe Magic the Gathering burlesque isn't something that we can just throw together in like a quarter, because we have one of these shows every quarter, it seems. But like stuff like that, you know, like personally, I think Magic the Gathering burlesque would be amazing. Having to understand how the community kind of reaches out and engages with one another in these different areas would be very cool. And to kind of like entrench yourself in these spaces. would be very fun as somebody who comes from a different area. Like driving, that's the other thing. I drove from California to Minnesota, and I very much would have liked to do that. I would have liked to be like, oh, here's this other thing that's happening at this local, like, art gallery or theater or museum that happens to tie into what's happening at the convention center. That's cool. I'd love to go check that out. And that didn't happen for this show. It's not like it's a net bad. I think with how long lived Magic has been, and also Wizards of the Coast has been, I think it would be something that'd be very cool to continue to think about and to plan for future events. It's just a thought. I see other conventions doing it, and I'm like, why not? Why not Magic, though? We're so much good at this show. Oh, I am also going to shout out the staffers who were at the general information booth. The general information booth people, always a hoot and a half. They were super nice. They always had an answer for you. If they didn't have an answer, they would figure out how to get you an answer. And they kind of became the, like, pin trading hub. As someone who did the pin trading, I went into it in my pin review. If you want to check that out, go into there. But honestly, I'm excited. I really, 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 really hope that they continue this momentum with doing stuff in Barcelona, because there's not too many things that are done for the international Magic fans, and I want that show to be just as good. It would be really cool to go to Barcelona, but I don't know if that's in the cards for me. So I can only hope that the feedback that I give and the feedback that other people give for the show helps make Barcelona rad for all of those people who are able to go to that show. But, like, at the end of everything, man, this was such an amazing show. I met so many wonderful people and gave away packs to very cool people and talked to so many other people. I ended up hanging out with a lot of people I never thought I would actually interact with as someone who's watched their content for a long time. I made very cool friends. That was super fun. It was such an amazing show. Of course, it's the one show that my wife didn't go to. But, like, I can't wait to see everybody again and do it in Vegas and to see how things grow and how they've matured from, like, even Minneapolis. So I rated Philadelphia a solid 85%. It's a good B plus A minus. This show is easily a 98%. The vibes were great. Everyone was so nice. Everyone was very chill. I just would think that there's just some fine tuning here and there. Promotions of things, the layouts of certain smaller things, making sure that the signage, while being big and good, that the typography is also big and visible, that the tables in the fan panel area are on risers so that everyone can see them no matter where they're sitting. I just love it. I loved it so much. I cannot wait to go to Vegas. I would love to go to Barcelona. If anyone's out there, if you're listening, anyone's listening, Elspeth, if you're listening, I'd love to go to Barcelona. But, you know, we'll see what happens. Great show. I definitely recommend going to a Magic Con. Magic Con is truly a convention for people who love Magic the Gathering. You can play, you can see pro level play, you can learn more different aspects about Magic, you can engage with artists, you can see panels dedicated to the different aspects of Magic, and you can meet some amazing people from different play levels. Especially as somebody who is more casual, a ton of very cool casual people. There were so many people of diverse and marginalized identities at this show. It was phenomenal. I loved it. I can't express that enough. I spoke to a couple of people who were great, were Black, and they were like, it's so refreshing to go sit down at a game and not be the only Black person in the room. Because there were just so many people. There were so many people. There were so many Latinos. There were so many people that weren't white or a dude. And I love it. The more people that there are in Magic, the more magic there is to go around. And I think that's exactly what Magic Cons are doing. They are getting people that connection to the game so that they can interact with the community and get past what is happening on Twitter. Because, you know, Twitter is a great information hub for a lot of different things, but sometimes people get into cycles on Twitter. And I think that actually going out and engaging with people in a way that makes you comfortable, in a way that if you want to go and sit and play a game, you can totally do that. But if you sit down with somebody and you're like, maybe I don't want to be here. Maybe I want to go look and hang out with my girl, Archangel Elspeth. You can go do that. You can go shopping. You can go pin trading. You can go check out the cosplay competition. You can go just hang out with cosplayers. It's like Disneyland. Definitely 98%. I can't wait for what the future holds. Congratulations, you made it to the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching it in its entirety. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like. If you enjoyed me and my candor, please consider subscribing, doing all the YouTube things, sharing it with people. Leave me a comment. Did you agree with what I was saying? Did you have a question about something I didn't go over? Hit me up. I would love to give you more clarification on a bunch of stuff. I walked that convention from top to bottom, so I would love to continue talking about it. And also, again, a big shout out to Wizards of the Coast for really kind of betting on the dark horse that is me in the beginning of my creating journey for not just Magic, but for also a lot of the other geeky things that I will be talking about. I very much appreciate it, and I can't wait to keep making content. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. It's only up from here, and I'm learning so much as I go.